When Vladimir Putin launched the invasion of Ukraine, he believed it would be a quick and decisive victory. Tanks would roll across the border, cities would fall within days, and Ukraine would be forced to capitulate under overwhelming force. But what Putin never imagined was that the greatest threat to his war effort wouldn't come from Ukraine's regular army. It would come from the shadows. As Russia advanced, a silent resistance began to awaken, one he never trained, never controlled, and never anticipated. Hidden inside occupied towns, deep forests, abandoned railway tunnels, and even within Russia itself, a new kind of army was rising. An army of civilians, infiltrators, saboteurs, and freedom fighters. A war that Putin believed he controlled was now slipping away, transforming into something far more dangerous. A shadow war with no front lines, no uniforms, and no rules. And in this war, Putin has absolutely no idea where the next strike will come from. In the early months of the invasion, Russia captured large swaths of Ukrainian territory, including Melitopol, Luhansk, Kherson, and parts of Crimea. To Putin, this was proof that his strategy was working. The region seemed quiet, suppressed, and subdued. But beneath that surface, anger was building. Fear and frustration were slowly hardening into something more potent: resolve. In occupied neighborhoods, where Russian patrols marched daily, Ukrainians began exchanging whispers, then meeting secretly, then forming groups. What started as small acts of defiance, green ribbons tied to fences, coded graffiti, anonymous messages, slowly transformed into a coordinated resistance movement. Russia dismissed these early signs as meaningless. But those ribbons and messages were not gestures. They were recruitment signals. And they were working. Across the occupied territories, Ukraine's underground resistance was being born. The first signs that this movement was more than symbolic appeared in Melitopol. Resistance fighters attempted to blow up a vehicle carrying a Russian drone crew. The bomb failed to detonate, one of the few failures they would experience. But the message was unmistakable. We are here. Weeks earlier, another car bomb had succeeded, killing several Russian officials despite Moscow claiming the explosion was caused by a short circuit. Then came a major railway sabotage case. Russia arrested an entire family, accusing them of working with Ukrainian intelligence. They were sentenced to decades in prison. But instead of stopping the movement, the arrests fueled it. Fear did not silence the partisans. It radicalized them. By November, the shadow war was expanding beyond Melitopol. In Luhansk, an area Russia insisted it controlled completely, partisans planted explosives beneath two military vehicles, detonating both at precisely the right moment. 4 Russian soldiers were killed in the blasts. The precision of the attack indicated training, discipline, and coordination. This wasn't random sabotage, it was a message. Months earlier, a similar attack in Kherson had killed a group of Chechen soldiers. Same method, same strategy, same invisible fingerprints. Someone was training these networks. Someone was guiding them. And Russia had absolutely no idea who. The attacks continued spreading. In Crimea, resistance fighters did not use bombs. They used cameras. Ukrainian infiltrators secretly recorded fighter jets taking off from the Saki air base, sending real-time intelligence to Kyiv. With this information, Ukraine knew exactly what aircraft Russia could deploy and exactly what targets to destroy in future strikes. Crimea had long been considered one of Russia's most fortified territories, but now even its bases had eyes inside. Putin expected sabotage from angry civilians. He did not expect espionage this deep. And worst of all for Russia, the shadow war did not stay inside Ukraine. It followed Putin home. In the Russian region of Kursk, a partisan group known as Black Spark blew up a transport vehicle used to move Iskander missiles, some of Russia's most important strike weapons. They also destroyed a radar system used to support local air defenses. One strike weakened Russia's ability to attack. The other weakened its ability to defend. Suddenly, Russian commanders realized they were vulnerable not only in Ukraine, but in their own homeland. 4 days later, more sabotage erupted, this time in Bashkortostan and Vologda. Communication towers were burned. A railway relay cabinet was destroyed. Russia relies heavily on trains to move troops and supplies. A single relay cabinet failure can shut down entire lines, delaying movements for hours or days. And in war, delays kill. Then came the most shocking moment yet. Moscow, the heart of Russian power, suffered a devastating drone strike. A major fuel artery, the Ring pipeline, was hit. This pipeline transports millions of tons of jet fuel, gasoline, and diesel each day. Suddenly, it was crippled. On paper, the strike was carried out by Ukrainian drones. But someone inside Moscow had guided them. Someone provided photographs, coordinates, and timing. Someone working in the capital, perhaps a shopkeeper, an engineer, or even a government worker, had helped Ukraine hit one of Russia's most critical energy lifelines. The Kremlin denies this, of course. It has to. But deep down, Putin knows the truth. If Moscow can be breached, nowhere is safe. Across Russia, sabotage is becoming so common that officials now describe these incidents as technical failures. Electrical panels burn. Relay boxes explode. Fuel depots catch fire. Communication towers collapse. All accidental, they claim. All lies. Putin can imprison journalists, silence critics, and threaten dissidents. But he cannot silence a movement he cannot find. And these partisans are not soldiers. They are teachers, students, engineers, retirees, mechanics, mothers, fathers, ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they refuse to accept the future Putin is trying to force upon them. Many of these groups operate with remarkable sophistication. Underground workshops use 3D printers to create tools. Cyber activists hack Russian databases. Infiltrators send photographs of military installations, and trained saboteurs blow up key infrastructure. Ukraine's intelligence organizations, including HUAR and the Special Operations Forces, now openly coordinate with these resistance networks. Together, they form what analysts call a shadow army, capable of reaching places regular Ukrainian troops could never reach. In occupied regions like Melitopol, Luhansk, and Crimea, these fighters strike from within. In Russia itself, from Kursk to Moscow to the Urals, they strike from below the radar, slipping through society unnoticed. By 2025, the resistance had grown into a massive parallel force. They sabotage rail lines in Siberia, burn recruitment offices, disable communication towers, map airfields, and identify high-value targets for Ukrainian strike teams. None of their operations alone win the war outright, but collectively, they drain Russia's strength. Every explosion delays supplies. Every burnt-out relay station slows troop movements. Every leak of intelligence shortens the lifespan of Russia's military assets. And every act of defiance forces Putin to redeploy manpower, weaken his front lines, and question the loyalty of his own citizens. Ukraine may not match Russia in manpower or weapons, but in the shadows, it has something Russia lacks: a determined population willing to resist at any cost. These fighters don't seek glory. They don't wear medals. Many never reveal their names. They don't expect to win the war in a single moment. Their goal is much simpler: bleed the Russian war machine dry, delay by delay, disruption by disruption, fracture by fracture. And as each month passes, their strikes become more frequent, more coordinated, and more devastating. Putin once believed fear would keep his people loyal, but fear has given way to fury, and fury, when organized, becomes unstoppable. Russia now faces two wars, the one on the battlefield and the one in its own streets. The first is brutal, the second is existential, because the enemy Putin fears most isn't the Ukrainian army. It's the resistance that has rooted itself inside his own territory, hidden among his own people, striking at the war machine he believed was invincible. And now, as sabotage spreads from Moscow to the Urals and from Crimea to Siberia, one truth becomes undeniable. Putin is no longer fighting a country. He is fighting an idea that no authoritarian has ever managed to crush. The idea of freedom. The idea that people, when pushed to the brink, will rise. The idea that his war is doomed not because Ukraine is stronger, but because his own people no longer believe in him. If you liked this story, stay tuned for the next one, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.